So it's a little after 3:30. It's been having air pulled through it for quite a while. I'm pretty comfortable with how dry it is, ready to put it in the desiccator. We're going to try to transfer this to the speaker that we teared earlier. See, it's a pretty nice crystal. And describe the crystal form in your notebook. As always, I'm trying to leave the piece of filter paper behind if I can. But if it comes out, it's no real big deal. That's good enough. So we'll tap that down. I'm going to use this little bit to make up a mass spec sample. I'll let that sit. Actually got a little bit more than I need for a mass spec sample, so I'll try to get a little bit more in there. Yeah, that's plenty. So let's get a mass on this beaker before we put it in the desiccator. 65B for me. So we're at 10.650 grams. Probably slightly wet. There's a little bit of water that's going to be taken out. So that was 10.650 gram. And we're just going to sit that inside the 50 milliliter beaker. Stick that in the desiccator next to the other one. Let it dry over the weekend. And now I have my 65B vial for our GCMS spec. That spatula won't reach into the vial. So what I'm going to do is use a disposable test tube. Just add a squirt of methanol. And then take that spatula and swish it around to dissolve the solid that's on it. Vortex that to make sure it goes in completely. And then we'll transfer that to the mass spec vial. Add a little bit more because I want about 1.5 milliliters. I don't think I have that. Obviously I can't stick this pipette back in the methanol jar now. That's not quite up to the top line, but it's up to the second one. That's ample material. since the syringe goes all the way down to the bottom. So we now have our 65B ready. It's mostly ethanol. That should go, well, it's 50% ethanol. Should probably go in the waste container rather than down the sink. Set those aside for now. Put some ethanol back. And we can go and set up a GCMS batch file to run those two samples. Take those across the way. And I'm going to stick 65A in slot number 1 and 65B in slot number 2. I'm going to check and make sure there's still methanol in the wash. There is. So we'll reset that. There we go. So it's been in gas saver mode. And it looks like someone has used it recently, besides me. So we're going to go to batch processing. And we are going to select project. And I'm going to go to where I have my GCMS spec, 2021 labs. And I have a bromination batch file in there before, so I'm going to open that. So we'll close this. There's my bromination batch. So acetanilide I don't need to rerun, I can delete that row. And 65A. Which is in vial number 1, is actually crude bromoacetanilide, product of bromination of acetanilide. I'm going to need to change the data file though, since that data file already exists. So I'm going to change it to crude bromoacetanilide. Actually, let's just put my lot number on there, DCL-10-65A-1. It should be crude bromoacetanilide. And then we've got our purified DCL-10-65B-1. Change this to 65B. And that's recrystallized from 50% aqueous ethanol, so that's a good title. 0.1 microliter volume. Bromination 2021, our tuning file looks good. So then I can delete row 4. Let's change that to vial number 2. Oops, I'm going to delete this row. So I'm going to save that batch file. And I can save it over the top of the previous one since I don't need it anymore. So we have this bromination batch, file 1 and 2, 65A and 65B. Data files 65A1 and B1. Got a description, and we can start that batch file. It's going to take a while because the oven's right now at 45 and this injector port is at 230 and the interface is at 250, and that's going to be switching to 280 and I think 80 for the oven and 280, so things are going to be changing. It will take a little while, but we can just let that run and go away and clean up the last of our residue. So I will turn off the camera and I'll start uploading these to YouTube.